It is Friday, May 29th. I'm Sam Seder.
And I'm Lucie Steiner. Which one of these stories will you be talking about today?
Minneapolis authorities again refused to hold local police accountable for the gruesome videotaped killing of a helpless man, a racist act of cruelty and impunity that has shocked the world. Meanwhile, Donald Trump managed to attack the First Amendment as well as the legislative powers of Congress with a single executive order yesterday. And lastly, civil liberties groups are suing a company that sells powerful facial recognition tools to police. They hope the courts can avert a privacy-ending nightmare scenario and put Clearview A.I. out of business.
You're listening to Majority.fm's AM Quickie, and these are the stories you need to know.
The Minneapolis Uprising continued last night for a third night. Minnesota Governor Tim Walz called in the National Guard after groups of angry protesters faced off with police around the city. Fires again broke out around and, last night, amazingly even inside the city's 3rd Precinct station. News videos showed police driving near crowds and spraying chemical agents indiscriminately. Solidarity protests sprung up in cities around the country to demand justice for George Floyd, the middle-aged black man slowly suffocated by white officers while on camera in a grisly mirror image of civil rights activists taking a knee. Some of those also turned violent again, the most egregious violence directed at those demanding justice. In Denver, Colorado, an SUV driver appeared to deliberately turn around to run over a protester. Federal authorities said their criminal investigation into Floyd's killing by Minneapolis police was a top Justice Department priority. The American Civil Liberties Union called for the state attorney general to appoint an independent prosecutor. County District Attorney gave a flustered press conference that failed to explain his decision not to prosecute. Even some police chiefs and unions expressed outrage and disgust over the conduct of Minneapolis officers. Chiefs in Houston, Miami, Tucson, and Los Angeles, and unions in the Bay Area issued statements supporting the immediate firing of the 4 officers involved in Floyd's killing. But if local protests and online reactions are anything to go by, they also struggled to convince people that police themselves were not leading a threat to public safety. The University of Minnesota said it would cut ties to the MPD after Floyd's killing. Various news outlets reported on the lengthy misconduct record of Officer Derek Chauvin, who killed Floyd. A man who was shot in his home by Chauvin during a domestic violence call 12 years ago told the Daily Beast the killer cop got a slap on the wrist. He added that if Chauvin was reprimanded after the shooting, George Floyd would still be alive. It also emerged that Senator Amy Klobuchar, now being vetted by Joe Biden's campaign as a possible vice presidential pick, declined to prosecute Chauvin for shooting a Native American man in 2011 when she was a prosecutor in Minneapolis. TMZ reported that the 17-year-old girl who filmed Floyd's killing was being hounded by vicious online trolls who questioned her motives. And even worse than the compounded trauma is knowing that there is no public agency her family can trust to ensure their safety. The same may be true for the entire community. Donald Trump signed an executive order yesterday intended to punish Twitter for posting a disclaimer on one of his more egregious recent lies and potentially opening up critics of the president to libel claims. After Trump posted tweets earlier this week claiming the next election would be rigged by his enemies, Twitter decided enough was enough and posted a disclaimer to the president's lies about mail-in voting, as a responsible news organization might have done in the age before social media. Trump responded by accusing the company of election interference and vowing retribution, which he delivered yesterday with a stroke of a pen. Trump's order seeks to override a law passed by Congress in 1996, giving widespread immunity to tech companies for content posted by users. The provision, known as Section 230, has always had critics from across the political spectrum. However, Trump is attempting here to brazenly rewrite the laws without regard to constitutional processes, and he's doing it to directly attack the First Amendment. All the while, he's the one crying censorship. Yesterday, Trump claimed there's nothing he'd rather do than get rid of his Twitter account. Yes, I'm sure we all believe that. Without Twitter, he could not have so easily shared a video featuring the message, quote, "The only good Democrat is a dead Democrat," end quote, as he did yesterday at the stroke of midnight. Without Twitter, he'd have to call a press conference or buy an ad, and then people might see he was not really joking.
Majority.fm's AM Quickie is fueled by JustCoffee.coop. Just Coffee is a worker-owned coffee roaster based in Madison, Wisconsin that has sponsored the Majority Report for nearly a decade. Check out their collection of fair trade roasts, including our own Majority Report blend. And regardless of what you order, receive 10% off your order when you use the code MAJORITY at checkout. And all shipping is free. That's coupon code MAJORITY at JustCoffee.coop.
The ACLU filed a lawsuit yesterday against one of the most disturbing tech companies around, which sells facial recognition software to police departments. Calling the company Clearview A.I. the embodiment of a nightmare scenario, the civil liberties suit claims it also violates state law in Illinois. Companies doing business there are forbidden from using people's fingerprints or face scans without consent. But this is exactly Clearview's business model. They reportedly scraped the internet for more than 3 billion photos, then used them to build the company's facial recognition database. They make money by renting the database out to law enforcement, but also to pretty much anyone who's willing to pay. There are concerns that pretty sketchy customers have made use of the company's services, and there are concerns that employees and insiders have improper access to law enforcement investigations as they are happening. ACLU lawyer Nathan Fried Wessler told the New York Times that if left unchecked, Clearview's product will end privacy as we know it, and this is the outcome the lawsuit seeks to prevent. The law firm that helped in the preparation of the case, Edelson PC, has won previous class action suits against tech companies over privacy violations. For instance, they won a $550 million settlement from Facebook over facial recognition technology, and that was also in Illinois. Here's hoping they are lucky enough to put this monstrosity out of business for good.
And now for some quicker quickies.
Quicker Quickie.
Another week's jobless claims offered no new hope for averting a greater depression. Another 2.1 million people, at least, filed for unemployment, bringing the total to 40 million out of work since mid-March. That means 1 in 4 American workers has lost their job in the pandemic, and that's so far. A rare case of real-life vote-by-mail fraud was reported yesterday, but it's not the kind of fable you hear from Republicans in election years. Prosecutors in West Virginia charged a postal carrier, Thomas Cooper, with attempted election fraud after altering 8 people's ballot requests. On 5 of the ballot requests he handled, Cooper allegedly changed their party affiliation from Democrat to Republican. In an affidavit, prosecutors said he first denied and then later admitted to altering the voter's preference as a joke. Yet another reason, as Harry Shearer says, leave the comedy to the professionals. The progressive British news site Open Democracy reported yesterday that the U.S. State Department is funding a fake news site in Armenia that is spreading disinformation about the coronavirus. The website in question is part of a network of far-right propaganda sites that sprung up after the so-called Velvet Revolution there 2 years ago. It received $50,000 from the department's Democracy Commission Small Grants Program. Lately, it has been urging Armenians to refuse any future vaccination for the coronavirus, described it as a fake pandemic, and claimed victims' families were being bribed to blame the pandemic. The State Department declined to comment on its funding for the propaganda site. Vanity Fair reported this week that the Food and Drug Administration Commissioner Stephen Hahn made a personal effort to help an obscure upstate New York doctor promote a bogus miracle treatment for COVID-19 favored by Trump. Hahn personally called Dr. Vladimir Zelenko to ask how he could help. The doctor responded with a demand for thousands of pills, including hydroxychloroquine. Initially baffled, Hahn ensured Zelenko got everything he needed from the federal stockpile. And hey, look, we found the looters.
Quicker Quickie.
That's all for the AM Quickie. Join us this afternoon on the Majority Report live at noon. Howard Bryant will be joining us, and Alex Pein. Should be a great show. Stay safe.